I'm delighted to welcome today a very special guest and very unusual guest, Jonas Grau Thomsen, who is a consultant and an influencer in advanced bionics. So welcome, Jonas.
Thank you very much. Thank you very
So
much. It's good to be here.
lovely to have you. So where are you speaking from? What country are you in?
I'm in Denmark.
Okay, and I'm in the Algarve, Portugal, the wonders of technology.
Yeah,
So
fantastic.
technology is pretty much kind of what we're going to be talking about, part of today's conversation. So the technology behind bionics. Before we go into advanced bionics, what is bionics itself? What do you mean by that?
Well, bionics is kind of a broad term where it's the way I understand it, at least, and the way it's usually understood is bionics is, for example, augmentation of the body, be that a leg, if you've lost your leg, or be that a bionic hand, where if you don't have any, if you lost your hands or your arms, it is an augmentation of the body via technology. That's basically the way to understand it.
Cool. My father, before he died in 1976, had his leg removed,
Hmm.
and he had a prosthesis, and it was extremely basic.
Hmm.
And he would practice with it, and obviously had a very sore stump and what have we initially. And he would practice when the children were at school so that nobody would see him, children would see him and get frightened, and he'd be walking up and down the road to the post box practicing
Mm.
with his leg. um, Sadly he died in 1976, but that was my only experience of this kind of field. But we've come such a long way now in those 46 years of
Indeed, we have.
the thought that you can have you can have athletes now running, you can have people climbing up mountains, with no
Hmm.
legs. I mean, the thought, all those years ago would have been absolutely preposterous. People would have thought you've come totally bonkers. So how did you get into this? What's your connection?
Well, my connection is I have a rare genetic condition that has par- paralyzed me from my waist and down when I was only 1 year old, and I was paralyzed for 1 year, and then all of a sudden I regained the ability to walk again, although with a lot of spasticity, and my yeah. It was not easy, and yeah, as I said, there was a lot of spasticity, and that made it very hard for me to go. So I went through a lot of surgeries that reduced the spasticity and made it easier for me to go. But the proverbial two sides of the coin was that they was able to make me able to walk, but for a limited time. They said all the way when I was only 6 year old, they told me that I would probably only have around 10 years to walk, be able to walk in, and I didn't like it like that. That view then, and I continued not accepting it. So even though I became a wheelchair user over time, I never really accepted that I was going to be a wheelchair user for the rest of my life. So, and I need to say, I was able to walk, but I had my wheelchair if I had to go for longer stretches. So, so I was able to walk okay, actually. And then some 10 years ago, I realized I'd gone through a period where it had gone down in mobility, and I understood that it was probably going to continue that road. So I began to look for solutions to my predicament, and I quickly understood that exoskeletons could be the solution for me. 10 years ago, it was really, really, really bleeding edge technology, and it is in most ways still very, very new technology. But I realized that this was going to be the thing that could get me walking again. So I basically called the one exoskeleton company there was at that time, Cyberdyne, and asked them if I could try the exoskeleton, and they basically just told me, "And you are?" So I realized that I had to become an expert in this. I needed to invest a lot of time into actually understand this technology. And during that time, I understood not only that it was going to be a thing for me, but the scope of this technology is unbelievable big. It is going to change the world, not only how we treat people with disabilities, but how we do work, how we get around. It's going to be a mobility evolution. So that kind of broadened my scope a lot, and I began to gather as much knowledge I could on all kinds of exoskeletons. But of course, with a highly focus on my own situation. But this is kind of my way into this, and of course, being that I have been living with a disability for all my life almost, I know a lot of people with various disabilities that I have learned from. I have seen how what their issues is, how assistive devices can be improved. So that kind of became my way of living, and my company Nordic Bionics is advising on these kind of technologies and how to use innovation to improve them. So that's me.
Okay, wonderful. How old are you now?
36.
Okay, so you've got all this. You've literally got life experience, and many, many, many more years ahead of you to make a difference. So, how do you envisage maybe the next 30 years? What do you think is going to be happening in this field in that time?
Oh, in this field, it is almost unbelievable to even think about it. I mean, in 30 years, I very much doubt that we will see any wheelchairs. It will only be the most severe cases that cannot come up in an exoskeleton, and I'm saying that with my limited now view of 30 years in the future, maybe everybody will be in exoskeletons. I think that the time of the wheelchair is at its end. Well, maybe not that we're going to end it right away, but I think they have had their run of the world, and I think we're going to realize how important it is for people to get up and walking. I mean, it's not only a question of practicality; it's actually a question of healthy, just living more healthy. Sitting is the new smoking. I have heard somewhere, and I love that phrase. Unfortunately, it puts wheelchair users in an awkward situation because, well, we don't really have a choice, do we? So, but there's so much potential for more healthy living and more a better life if you go up. It is imperative to get people up and walking. It is heart disease, it is cardiovascular disease, it is diabetes, it is general overweight, a lack of the feeling of when you're full, you're not feeling that the same way, or at least not when you are actually full, when you're sitting down a lot, which obviously leads to overeating, and well, there you go. Then it's a self-fulfilling circle, right? But nobody is talking about it. Nobody seems to want to talk about it. It is well, when we are talking about it, when we see office people, they should stand up and if they can have a treadmill under their desk, right? And we know a lot about that, and we are concerned about the health of our office workers, but the health of our people in wheelchairs is completely gone from the agenda, and that is what I'm trying to change now with what I do.
Okay, and what a wonderful thing to do, and I will be doing what I can do to help with that, absolutely. The listeners on podcast won't be able to see you visually, but those on YouTube obviously can do. So obviously with the YouTube, we don't know how tall anybody is these days. I'm going to be meeting somebody next week who I met on Facebook. They're coming out to Portugal to a retreat that I'm hosting. And the thing that I'm going to be interested in is to see how tall this person is, because we can only see, kind of chest upwards. I can see looking at you that you're what I would class as muscly. You don't appear to be overweight to me. You appear to be muscly, and I would imagine that that's because you're using your upper body, to get yourself around.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think I'm overweight in the classic term in terms of BMI and all that, but given that I sit as I do, my legs are not that heavy, so yeah, it is always a struggle to stay fit even in a wheelchair. I don't know if you were able to see the video I posted on LinkedIn. I actually had the great opportunity to try a fitness solution for wheelchair users when I was at a Reha in Düsseldorf last week.
Oh no, I haven't seen that. I'll have to look at that. That sounds great.
I can maybe we can link the video somehow. But the general idea of it is actually a bit like when you're testing your car for horsepower. So you're putting it on a kind of roller field, and then you give it a drive as fast as you can. And basically, it's the same with this fitness solution. So that was actually very, very funny, and they had managed to make gamification.
Yeah, gamification.
Well, yeah, exactly that one. So that was quite fun. So, but yeah, of course, my upper body is stronger because I use it to get around, and I also play rugby and wheelchair rugby and well do half marathons. So I try to stay fit as much as I can.
Brilliant, and that's so good to hear, because so many people have a mindset that is victim, and others have I'm not going to be a victim. I'm just going to make the best of it. So what do you think the switch is there? Why are you so positive despite the situation that you have?
That's a good question, actually, and I've been wondering this myself. I couldn't tell you why I am so. I can tell you why I am. I never saw myself as a victim, only a victim of circumstances, and that's, I mean, things happens. I got sick when I was a child, and that happened. No, nothing to do about that, but I guess my what happened for me was I was told basically when I was only a kid, as I said before, that I was only going to that I had a limited time I could walk, and I just blankly refused it and began looking for solutions. Even when I was a child, I remember driving in my wheelchair and imagining that the wheels could flip up and it was a hovercraft. I mean, I always imagined the world different to how it was. Maybe down to an overactive imagination, but anyway, it helped me a lot, and I think it steered me into my path of life, where I have holds a bachelor's degrees in innovation and entrepreneurship, and I think that was kind of going to be that education I was going to get anyway, or at least something similar to it, because innovation is just such a big part of your life. When you have a disability, you have to always be looking at the world to see, how am I going to traverse this? How am I going to get into this building? So I think either you have the spark or you don't have the spark. I couldn't tell you why. I wish I could, but the way I see it is, I think the world is portraying people with disabilities and as victims. That is a big part of why I think so many people are seeing themselves as victims, because you see yourself the way you have being told you are. It's how we learn to be the person we are. We see how the world is portraying us, and how and that is going to become a part of our image of ourselves if we are not stubborn as I was. I, I just didn't. I couldn't identify with this sob story image of people with disabilities. But a lot of the problem is also the words we're using, because disability, when something is disabled, that is, you're disabling something, that means it is, well, cut off, it is non-functioning anymore. I don't feel like I'm non-functioning. I am absolutely not turned off. So the words themselves is a problem. Actually, in the Middle East, or at least in Arabic, I think that the name for disabled people is people of determination. I think it's something like it, and I believe it's so beautiful, because yeah, we have determination. We do the same as you guys. We just do it with extra XP, because we have to figure out how to do everything on our own the first time.
Absolutely. I think you've actually answered the question in a roundabout way, because I think it's to do with conditioning as to why people have certain mindsets, and the conditioning from when we're young, things that we're told, we take on board other people's views, other people's opinions. How dare they put that onto a young child to say that you're not going to talk. I had something similar when I was a little bit older, but I was told I was born with a kidney disease that was a rare condition, and we didn't know it until I was 22. And when I had a diagnosis, I was blue lighted to hospital, and everybody had their hazmat suits on. They thought I'd got typhoid, but it turned out to be this rare kidney disease. And I was told I would be on medication for life, it's incurable, so on and so forth. In my mid-40s, I was introduced to natural health care and wellbeing, which has led me to where I am today with helping other people. So we are conditioned, we're told you have to take drugs, you can't do this, it's all can't. So,
Exactly.
so how, talk us through your family life. So this happened to you very young. So how did your family, what kind of environment were you growing up in?
Well, I was growing up in a household where it was only my mother and I. And my mother, I think maybe she's probably one of the reasons for me to have this spark. She always, I always could get a hand. I could always get help, but I had to try first. I had to try what I wanted to do, and I had to figure out ways to get to the place where my friends was, because, well, if I got help all the time, I would need help all the time, I guess, was the idea. So that was kind of my upbringing. I moved out of home in quite early age, actually. I think I didn't live home from the age of 16, 17 or something like that. So I also had to learn to live, to figure out how to do things, how to live a life in a world that is at times not geared towards people with disabilities. So, but yeah, you just have to make it work. That's
I speak sign language, British Sign Language, and the deaf friends that I have exactly the same. You know, it's not a disability, because when they don't see, you know, things as a disability, they can't do the hearing bit, and obviously the talking bit is related as well. But
hmm
they can do other things that we can't do. You know, their eyesight is heightened,
exactly.
their sense of smell, touch, you know, the feelings, you know. So if some part of us isn't working very well, the other parts have to kind of well, they don't have to, but they do, don't they? It's nature.
Yeah, they do really. And yeah, I see. I have the same. I feel the same way. I don't see me being in a wheelchair as a disability. It is inconvenient sometimes. I will admit, but I can do pretty much all I want to do in my wheelchair. So so I mean, again, I am trying to get an exoskeleton, but that's besides the point. When you are in a wheelchair, you can either go with the situation you are in and make the best out of it, and just, well, not just accept, because if you just accept, you are on the edge of becoming a victim. But if you accept the situation as it is, but continue to see how to make the best out of it, I think that's the best way to do it.
Mm.
I got tinnitus some years ago now. It's don't really know how many years ago. It must be 5, 8 years ago, and that was annoying. Constantly having this high pitch tone in your ear. But I I looked if I did some research and spoke to some experts. Is there something to do? What is it? Is there something to do? And they basically told me we have no idea why it is happening, and there's nothing to do. And I just, well, if there's nothing to do, then there's no real reason for me to get bothered by it. Then it's just part of the life, and now 8 years later, I don't really hear it anymore. So might as well not be there. So I think I could, if you see this from the other perspective, I could have continued to fuss about it, and I could continue to be annoyed about it. I could continue to be angry and sad about it, and I would probably still hear it this day.
Mm. That's a really good point. It's not it's what you focus on. So if you focus on
Exactly.
something, that's what you get. If you focus on being a victim, that's what you get. You know, we give out
Yeah.
whatever the energy is, and we get it back in shed loads. You know, so yeah, absolutely. The mentality, the mindset is absolutely huge. And the work that I do with my behaviour work. So I believe that our behaviour, well, I know our behaviour determines our health and how we behave. So our behaviour
hmm
can cause our health problems, but it can also help us to resolve our health problems.
hmm
So I see time and time and time again people who are very introverted, extremely mild-mannered, very kind, caring people, but their introversion means that they're holding on. They're holding on to their emotions. They're holding on to whatever the things are that's wrong with them. And there are patterns with the behavioural styles. I use something called the DISC model,
hmm
which is very, very popular, very widely used. And each of those behavioural characteristics, D, I, S, and C, so dominance, influence, steadiness, and compliance, they have attributes that predispose us to certain health conditions. So I see it
Mm.
time and time again with people I support through cancer and out the other side again. that those who are certain behavioural styles, they will do a lot better, a lot quicker than those who are different personality styles, but we're a complete blend. So your personality style, from the language you've been using, the way that you've been talking, is very, very clear to me.
I actually took a disc test some years ago, so I know exactly how my personality is. I'm very interested in this predisposition for sickness in the disc model. That's very interesting, actually. Well, now I'm almost the one doing the the questioning, but could you elaborate a little bit on that, because that's really interesting.
Yeah, sure. I'll send you a link so that you can do your own up-to-date disc profile. I've had my own software developed now, which lends itself towards the health piece, and I'm just reinventing myself yet again. And I'm focusing particularly on professional service firms, lawyers and accountants, because in a previous life I was chief executive of a law firm and I ran a big consulting division for EY. So I know how they operate from a management perspective and team analysis and so on. So that's where I'm going. But I used to man a cancer helpline. So after I recovered from stage 4 cancer in 2015, I was invited to speak at lots of different events and meetings and so on and so forth. And through that, I got introduced to various different charities. And one of them, I volunteered to man the helpline. I was the Wednesday lady. So if anybody was diagnosed with cancer or newly diagnosed in their families, they'd phone this charity and I would, deal with it on a Wednesday. So with all the experience I've had with disc profiling, since the mid 1990s, so over 25 years now, I was thinking, how can I use my expertise with these people? Because I can tell by when I'm speaking to somebody, if I'm observing their body language, there's lots of different ways to tell profiles, but of course people pretend. Sometimes what we see isn't really the true person. So you might have a person's behaviour at home, which is one style. They go to work and they might put on a suit or a uniform and they'll behave in a different way, a way that they think they should be behaving through peer pressure or what the boss is saying, whatever. So how can I help these people with all the knowledge I've got? So what I did, I was seeing patterns of the language people were using when they were talking to me, patterns of how I could physically see their behaviour manifesting, and I worked out. I tried all different versions of applying disc to these people, and nothing was working. And then it came to me. I did some research, and Hippocrates, the doctors used to take a Hippocratic oath, and Hippocrates, who was around in 400 BC, he identified what he called the 4 humours, and the way he would tell the person's disposition, shall we say, or the humours as he called them, was by blood, bile and phlegm, and according to what colours you were, your bodily fluids were, you were this sort of person or that sort of person. So outgoing or internal and full of whatever, according to your bodily fluids, which of course we now know is related to the gut function, and the gut's related to the brain function. Everything's all connected. So I thought, well, there must be a bit more to this. I did a bit of research. There's not much out there at all relating to behavioural profiling and health. Having said that, a friend of mine has published an article yesterday. He has, what do they call it, with the shakes? Can't remember the name of it. Parkinson's, that's it, thank you. So he has that, and he's actually just published an article and referred to my, he did a disc profile as well on how it manifests. So our behaviour will get us into trouble with our health, and it can also get us out of trouble. So my strong personality, and clearly yours, is the thing that got me into stage 4 cancer, but also got me out of it as well. Nobody's telling me when I'm going to die. I was given less than a year to live, like you were given exactly. X number of years to walk. How dare you? How dare you?
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. How dare you? I like that.
Yeah. So there is a direct correlation between the behaviour and the health piece. So I can tell, and the reports that I produce, and I'll as I say, I'll send you the link. people who are outgoing will be predisposed to certain conditions, taking on too much, burning themselves out, high blood pressure, that kind of thing. People who are introverted focus will have more internal conditions, so joint pain, arthritis, rheumatism, that kind of thing, gut issues. They worry more, whereas the extroverts more, you know what's happening with an extrovert because you can see it, observe it, and they tell you.
I guess that stress is also one of the things. Well, my main letters in the D profile, the disc profile is D and I, almost entirely D and I, only a little bit S and C. So, I mean, I completely get where you're going with burning out and well, I guess a bright burning candle, or how you pronounce, how to say it is. Yeah, it is what make us go the way we do. I also have a very I really want to help people. That is one of my main my main goals with what I do, and also why I've only had my company for roughly a year now, but I have been doing what I do in my company basically for free for a long time, because I knew I had a knowledge that could help people, and I just wanted to help people. Would you have me excused for a moment? I have to put down the curtain.
Okay. I'll pause the recording. Okay, so you've got the sun out of your eyes.
Yes.
So so the personality style of things is fascinating, and it'd be no surprise to you that I'm also D&I profile.
Not at all surprising.
Yeah, and that is a pattern, and I find that with leadership as well. So in any organisation, I've done this with loads of head teachers, business leaders of all kinds of organisations, and there's two kind of common profile patterns that are in leadership. One of them is our type of behaviour pattern, so the high D, the high I, wanting to help people, which is the I part of us. The D is getting on with the task, so that's a lovely combination. Don't bother us with systems and procedures and whys and wherefores. We want to do everything 100 miles an hour. We want to do it now.
Exactly. No red tape, please.
No, don't even go there. And then the other style is what we call a DC profile. So still the high D, getting things done, taking control, but through a process. And a lot of head teachers are like that. So if they are emotionally aware, if they have high emotional intelligence, and with ordinary leaders as well, but particularly with head teachers, I've noticed that they rule by process and procedure. So it's, you do it this way, you do it exactly like this, point for point for point. You do it 100 miles an hour, and you do it my way, or it's the highway. So that's not a very popular leadership profile, but it's effective in certain situations, and it works better if the people who are that profile, they are aware, they have emotional intelligence, and then they can give themselves that surround themselves with people who've got the softer skills. So with the D and the I profiles, our profiles, we've got a mix. We've got the softer, which is the I, which is the people stuff, but we've also got the get on with it gene as well. So that's how it links. Fascinating. So the word you're saying, it sounds like exoskeleton. Is that right?
EXO skeleton. So basically, it's the Latin word for the kind of skeleton beetles and insects have. It's a skeleton, rigid skeleton on the outside, instead of having an exoskeleton, having a skeleton on the inside. Exo, but as far as I understand it, it means outside the body skeleton. So that's basically just the way the word they use.
Okay. You said that you wanted to have an exoskeleton. Do they sell them at Aldi or Lidl or Sainsbury's? Where do you get these things from?
Well, no, unfortunately, they don't yet sell them in these places. Um, no, it's a process where you either, it depends on where you live, but basically it's the same way you would get any other assistive device. You would in England, I guess you would get in touch with the NHS and ask them for if you could get it. I don't know if insurance is an important thing in England as well. In Denmark, you go to the municipality and ask, and well, maybe you're lucky, maybe you're not. I have asked. I don't know if I'm lucky yet. So, but else you're going to buy them yourself. And the problem with exoskeletons are they are extremely expensive. I don't know the conversion rate for pounds, but an exoskeleton, one of the exoskeletons I tried, which is actually being sold, cost around 65,000 US dollars. So it's quite expensive, and it is prohibitingly expensive in terms of accessibility to a broader audience. But that's the way it is with technology. The first iterations of technology, new technology, is going to be extremely expensive, and then it will slowly trickle down to be more approachable. But unfortunately, I can't really wait for it to be more approachable. That's the whole thing. It feels like I'm almost like in an Indiana Jones movie, running over a floor that is disappearing under me. I need this technology. I need it now. I actually needed it 2 years ago, maybe 10 years ago, but I need it now in order for me to live the life I want to, and to do the things with my son I would like to do. Go to the beach, go through the park with him in my hand, just go give him a swing. That is in essence the small but very important things I want to be able to do.
How old is your son?
3.5 years now.
Okay, so let's get this podcast out there and let's see if we can get some interest and get you the backing that you need for this, because you're absolutely remarkable, Jonas. Really, I take my hat off to you, to the way that you approach life, and you are a true inspiration to so many people. So let's do what we can to get this out there. And how do people contact you?
I mean, LinkedIn is where I do most of my work and where I show most of my work. So that would be the best way to get in touch with me. Jonas Grau Thomsen. I hope you can put that in some comment, because that's notes, probably not going to be easy to understand given Danish. So, but yeah, that's the easiest way to get in touch with me. Yeah, I guess
on LinkedIn.
Yeah, LinkedIn is the best way to get in contact with me. You could link my number. That's completely fine as well. So
okay, tell us your number for the podcast people.
It's 42 33 33 76, and you need to put a plus 45 in the beginning, because Danish land code.
Okay, run that by us again.
So in the right order, plus 45, 42, 33, 33, 76.
Marvellous, thank you. And I'm going to spell your name for the podcast people: Jonas, and then another word, Grau, and the final word Thomsen. Jonas Grau Thomsen for the listeners, and to find you on LinkedIn. It's been a pleasure speaking with you, and I'm sure we're going to have some more conversations, Jonas.
I hope so, and it has been a pleasure being with you, Elaine.
Thank you.